Hello guys, welcome back to the Pink Pill podcast. I am Nada and here is the best podcast to talk about current issues that women face and the problems with femininity today.
I have recently come across another podcast called Three Girls, One Kitchen, and the reason why this podcast could be particularly controversial or the reason why it will get a lot of limelight is because the headlining podcaster is adult film star Lana Rhoades. Okay, now I didn't know who this girl was, but the male podcasters or the men that cover or review her podcast obviously know who she is because they immediately name all the stuff that she's done. So I did a little research, and not the research you're thinking about, and I found out she's an adult film star. For just the ease of this video, I'm gonna call her an AF star, okay? So Lana Rhoades is a very popular AF star, and she's basically done some very explicit work, and this is the reason why she's very popular, and also she's stunning, like she's so beautiful. So her podcast is her and two other girls who I looked up who are not AF stars. I believe they're just like bloggers or like famous IG models in LA. So these three girls are in a kitchen, obviously, and they just talk about current things that women go through and their opinions on certain topics that affect women in the modern day. And one particular podcast was how to be a trophy wife. Now, they were talking about a lot of things in this podcast, and I would say like 60% of the stuff was not relevant. So I tried to find the full version, which I did on Spotify, but I couldn't find the video version, but I just could find the podcast, which I listened to. I didn't listen to the whole way through because the second half of the podcast wasn't about how to be a trophy wife. It was about just random things. So the main points they said in this podcast, and what we're going to basically break down, and what my podcast is going to be about, is that sometimes women can be very delusional when it comes to being a partner in the modern world, okay? And with this podcast, it's a very good example of how insecurity meets delusion, right? So with Lana Rhoades now, she knows she's an AF star. She knows that she's participated in some very explicit content on the internet for everyone to see, and things that the average man wouldn't like their partner, if they want a trophy wife, to participate in. She knows that, okay? And it could be a subject of embarrassment and shame for a man to ever have a wife who has that history that everyone could see. Because it's not even about her doing it, it's the fact that she done it and she uploaded it for millions of people to see and have easy access to, okay? So it's not really about, okay, she done this. It's the fact that she done this and now everyone can see it. Now, so she knows she's an AF star. She knows she has slept with numerous people. She knows that is a big mark of demarcation on her so-called trophy wife persona, or her so-called dating life, or her chances of marrying up in her status, or practicing hypergamy as she was talking about in the beginning of the video.
Hypergamy, it means marrying into or having a sexual relationship with someone of a higher sociological status or education.
So here's where we explain certain things, and let's now just be honest and be truthful. So women, you cannot say, oh, I don't need a man, I don't need to do this, I don't need to do that, I don't need to be a certain type of way for a man, F men, and turn around and make a video about how to be a trophy wife. In this video, this podcast they were talking about, they were saying, oh, it's not for a man, we're not doing it for a man, we are doing it for ourselves. But then like simultaneously trying to give tips on how to be a trophy wife. A trophy, the definition of a trophy is basically a prize. Something you win for being the best. Okay? Now, and if you add wife to that, it's something a man, traditionally speaking, because obviously, being a wife doesn't mean, having a wife doesn't mean you're automatically a man or a husband. There can be wives and wives, but traditionally speaking, a husband has a trophy wife when he considers himself to be the best of the best when it comes to men, and go forth and get the best type of woman. The best type of woman through a man's eyes, because it is the man that will wife you, is a woman who is classy, who is visually pleasing, and not just the slight, oh, she's cute, but if he walks into a room with this woman, everybody will stare and say, wow, how did he get a woman like that? But also have credentials that if we're in a particular setting, like a social, you can say, oh yeah, my wife, she studied law, or she did this, she did that. But it's not really that necessary. Like, if we looked at all the trophy wives in history, a lot of them won't have any kind of educational background. They just are very beautiful and have the qualities of a good wife. The thing about men, they are very simple and very stable, okay? Women are a bit more changing and progressive. These three girls, sorry to say, they're very delusional and they don't really know what they're saying, okay? Especially Lana Rhoades. So there was one particular section of the video where she asked the two of her friends, I believe they're her friends, oh, do you think that my past and what I've done doesn't allow me to be a trophy wife, or people say I can't be a trophy wife because of my past as an AF star? And obviously, two girls there, I think they're from LA and all that stuff, they're not going to be like, actually, yeah, most men won't want to marry you because of what you have done. Do you know what I mean? Like, they won't say that. They will be like, oh no, like, God, like, oh my God, like, it doesn't matter about your past. Like, it's just about how you are, like, how you value yourself. If you value yourself really highly, then like other people will value yourself really highly. Like, no, that's not how it works in the real world, okay? If you go to a shop and you see a particular item and it's beat up, it's got stains in it, it stinks, and then the shopkeeper comes over to you and says, oh yeah, this is $1,000, you're gonna look at it and be like, why is this thing so expensive? Because it sure isn't clean, it sure isn't in shape. You're not going to be like, oh, because he said it was expensive, that means it must be the best thing in the shop. No, that's not how it works. And that's not how men work, okay? Men value a woman who has class and who is pure, as in who is untainted, because they see that femininity in a woman when she is untainted, when she is less untouched, okay? They view that as feminine, they view that as soft. Masculine energy is when you go out and you explode your sexuality and you sleep with numerous partners. I'm not saying that is what we should be. I'm just saying that is how it is viewed. When they see that a woman is out there and that her sexuality is unfiltered, that's kind of a masculine energy, because it's like they want someone who's soft, they want someone who's like basically a lamb, and someone they can cherish and save and keep. Like, that's how men are. Unfortunately, for some women, that's how men are. Like, that's what they like. They don't like women who are too aggressive about their sexuality. They don't like aggressiveness in any sense of the way. For a woman, they want their energy to be feminine all the way through. So when they were saying that, they were basically placating to her and saying, oh no, it's fine. But in reality, I'm not saying that she cannot get married, because there probably is a man out there who doesn't care because she looks good, who will just won't care. But in reality, men have a problem if a girl has over 20 bodies, or even 10, or even 5. So for you to now say that she can be a trophy wife if she values herself highly, no, actually, the man has to value you and pick you and wife you. That's how a marriage works. You pick your man and see if he's worthy of taking care of you and providing for you, and the man picks you and sees if you are worthy of being a wife, and in this instance, a trophy wife. And if the trophy has doo-doo stains on it and dents, like Abba and Preach, thank you for this video that I am posting, because I originally got their analysis of this whole thing from their page. If the trophy has doo-doo stains on it and dents and just like crap on it, you're not going to pick that trophy no matter how much they price the trophy. You want the clean and shiniest trophy you can get with only your name on it. You don't want a trophy with a bunch of people's names in it and your tiny little name on the corner. No. So this is the number one problem I have with this whole podcast, the 3 Girls 1 Kitchen podcast about how to be a trophy wife. A lot of women are not realistic with themselves. The whole Kevin Samuel moment is so popular because he actually does try and be honest with a woman about where she stands in terms of dating. And I'm not saying Kevin Samuel is always right, because he can be a bit aggressive and not aggressive, but he can just be a bit rude about certain things. But you know, in reality, sometimes we need that honesty, and it's like you have to be realistic. Like, especially if you're talking about being a trophy wife. No, 99% sure that most men won't want to marry you because of your past. And there was one girl, I don't know if her name was Olivia or whatever her name is, I don't remember the names of these people. She said, oh, a trophy wife is, you know, whatever you feel like comfortable with, how you value yourself or whatever. And she said, oh, if you want to have hairy armpits and hairy legs, you go, girl.
It's not just about looking good, you know, like if you want to have hairy legs and hairy armpits, you go, girl. Like, you do that. If that makes you confident and you get a man like that, like, I support that. You know, I feel like we just support everything, and it's about how you feel and women empowerment.
Let's be realistic. Men don't like when women are not kept well. And if you're talking about being a wife, going into a marriage with a man, you've got to take in his perspective. He's not going to like you 9 times out of 10 if you don't groom yourself. Right? And the funny thing is, they were talking about hypergamy and marrying someone with a higher social status or a higher economical status or whatever. 99% of the time, men who have higher economical status, higher social status, want women who are something to show off.
And this is why I think a lot of women can be delusional, because they feel like they can go about, do whatever they want and not have any repercussions or consequences. Because in this modern day, that, okay, you can be whatever woman you want to be and not face the consequences, because those consequences can be anti-feminist and, you know, go against women's rights and stuff like that. Like, women can be anything and hold no consequences to it. No, it doesn't work like that. If you want a guy who has put so much energy into his career, into who he is and what he stands for, and pushes himself into high social status, yeah, if you feel like that's such a gain and you don't have the same things he offer, or you don't even have the same type of money he has, right? You can't just say, okay, what I'm offering is just me being myself. You've got to offer something that you feel like is valuable to him. And for men, what's valuable to them is the way you look. Number one, let's just get that clear. Men don't really care about anything else as much as looks. Right? And when it comes to marrying a woman, yes, men care about other things, but the attraction, the sexual attraction, the physical attraction has to be there. Now, what men find beautiful is all different to what they find beautiful. Like, some men like curvy, some men like skinny, tall, short, whatever. But you've got to be presentable to other people. Men are competitive by nature. They want a woman most times especially if you're a trophy wife, that you can bring out into the world and be like, this is my wife. She's better than what you've ever had in your whole life. Simple. This is my wife. She cooks for me. She cleans for me. Better than your wife does. Like, this is what they consider to be a trophy wife of value. And I'm not saying that this is all men, right? We're talking about those trophy wife men. It's not even, most trophy wives don't even cook and clean because they marry men who will provide like maids and cleaners and stuff like that. But the number one thing is that you look good. You look good and you're able to give him good kids, good looking kids. And able to go with him to social events and be that arm candy on his shoulder, on his arm. Okay? So this is why I call this podcast very delusional. They don't know the true definition of many things that they are talking about. They just feel like they do and they're just talking about it. You can be a high value woman for yourself. And the point they made is like, actually, if you put the energy and time into how you are, right, this can attract a good man. You don't have to do everything you can to attract a man and be that pick-me girl, right? But if we are talking about being a high value woman in order to be a trophy wife, if you're talking about how to be a trophy wife, some aspects have to appeal to men, because men are the ones that you're going to be marrying traditionally. If you're talking about the traditional sense, okay, if you're talking about the traditional sense, men are the ones that you're going to be marrying. So you got to appeal to them a little bit. You can't just say, I'm going to be all these things. I'm not going to shave. I'm not going to wash. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to take care of my hair. I'm going to be overweight. I'm going to be obese. And say, okay, all these things are here. And, you know, if I don't wash or I don't take care of myself, I don't go to the gym, if I value myself, I'm going to get a high value man. How many high value men have you seen with women who have a BMI of 40? How many high value men have you seen with women who don't shave their legs or who don't have hairy armpits? How many high value men have you seen with at least like a borderline average looking woman who, like, do you know what I mean? If I've seen a high value man with an average looking woman, most times that woman they knew from childhood, and they have this childhood lover kind of thing going on, or the woman, or if it's not her looks that are high value, it's her career, who she is. But she still would look presentable to the world. You can't just say, you have hairy legs now. No, you're being delusional. I think this is where women are being very delusional when it comes to dating. Yes, now in this world, women don't have to subscribe to like a patriarchal sense of how a woman should be seen or heard, You don't have to subscribe to that kind of notion, right? You can be who you want to be. But in that sense, when you're being who you want to be, certain choices that you make can affect your dating life and who you ultimately end up with. If you decide to go be a world-renowned AS star and have people essentially poop on you, that's going to limit your dating options, and it's going to limit the amount of people you're going to marry by a lot. Because a lot of men won't tolerate stuff like that. Okay? If you, as a woman, decide I'm going to stop shaving my armpits and my legs, and I'm going to stop wearing deodorant, yes, you can do that. As a woman, nobody's going to tell you can't do that. Yeah? And you can go about and feel as hairy and bushy and as empowered as you want. But it's going to limit your dating options significantly. And you cannot then get upset about it. Like, you're just being anti-feminist because hair removal is set in patriarchal times. Okay, so if you want those things, if you want to date up if you want to date up and date a man who has higher, economical status, who has higher social status, who has his stuff together as in terms of career and himself, and he keeps fit and he does this and does that. You want a man like that? Baby, you got to realize that you need to fit the prototype. You've got to fit the prototype. Don't let these girls who are sitting up here, ironically, all these girls, they look like the standard trophy wife. They're telling you, oh, you don't need to shave your armpits and your legs to be a trophy wife. But they understand the male gaze. They understand the male gaze, okay? They understand, and the fact that in their podcast halfway through, they kind of just opposed their whole points in the first half. They said, oh, if you want to have hairy legs, if you want to do this, if you want to do that, you don't want to take care of your appearance in that way, it's not for a man, then, oh, it's fine, And then in the second half, it's like, oh yeah, I like to shave my legs once a week because I like to feel clean. I like to wear, makeup that's not very there, barely there. Makeup enhance my beauty. Yeah, but you're wearing makeup for the male gaze. Makeup is there to make you look more softer, more feminine. You're doing it for the gaze of other people, especially males. You're not going to do makeup and draw a beard on yourself. No, you're not going to do that, because you know why? Because you know that men will look at you and be like, what the hell? And she's using everything to cover it. I've seen a lot of girls who have these pasts and who now want to settle down and get married and have kids and stuff like that. Try and use other methods of kind of accepting the fact they were sexually promiscuous in the past and did all these things. They try as much as possible. If it's not, they completely reform and become a Christian and start shaming every sexual or sexually explicit thing under the sun, and basically call these people call Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion disgusting and stuff like that. If they don't do that, they go the other way and say, feminism have said that everything is okay. If you want to get pooped on and let millions of people watch it, yeah, that's fine. And then every man should accept that and want to date you, even though that's still out there. If I ever saw a guy that I'm dating get pooped on by another girl, I am not going to date them. You know why? Because I don't want a dirty trophy.